right. Good morning. Thank you. So today, we're going to take a deep dive into the world of collaborative app development with Live Share. Collaboration is at the heart of modern work. Whether it's a code review or co-authoring a document, the ability to collaborate seamlessly is vital. But let's be honest. Implementing real-time collaboration can be a bit of a challenge. From data synchronization to conflict resolution or keeping track of user presence. Well, that's where Live Share is going to come in. So I'm Hal Bond, and I've been working on the Live Share SDK for the past couple of years. I'm also joined today by an expert crew. We've got Bob German, Dave Rousset, and Ryan Bliss. So as we go, if you have any questions, there's going to be a QR code on the right-hand side. Please feel free to take a picture and chat. We've got experts ready to handle any of your questions. And you can always catch us in the hallway afterwards. We're happy to have a conversation, talk about this. So today, we're going to go through a couple things. First, we're going to talk about Live Share, which Rajesh GA'd yesterday. We'll talk about what it is and why you might want to use it for your apps. Then Bob and David and Ryan are going to come out and show you how to get started. Then I'm going to go through a couple quick announcements about Teams that makes Live Share a little bit better. So in the modern workplace, it's really easy to get distracted. OK. Yeah, give me, let me just take this. Hold on a second here. Hey, Ryan. I'm in the middle of our breakout session. What's up?
Dude, priorities. You're late for stand-up.
Right. I totally forgot. OK, listen, just give me 1 minute. I got to take care of this here. All right, so since you called, there is one proposed item we're working on I want to discuss with you. Could you share your screen?
Yeah, sure.
OK.
Which one?
It's on the left there. It's in the proposed section. You got to kind of go down a little bit. No, up. It's in the. OK, listen. OK, sorry. This isn't working. Listen, there is a mind-blowing amount of screen sharing happening, right? We're doing it now. Your customers are doing it. They're sharing your apps too. And while it can often be great, it can often work really well, it isn't always the best. So Ryan, it's our breakout. Let's live share this.
I like that. Let me just pull this up real quick.
So I know this was a little bit of a corny intro, but Hanselman and Rasinovich can't have all the fun. So Ryan, let's actually break in a little bit and talk about this app and how you use Live Share in it.
Sure. I'll first show the UX, and then I'll go through the code a bit later.
OK. Hey, one of the first things I noticed is it's got it's got us over here in the upper right-hand corner. It knows where we are, knows who we are.
Yeah, Live Share is connected to Teams so that the people in the meeting are the people in your app. Live Presence lets us know who these users are, which the app uses for things like filtering down the tasks just to us.
Nice. Well, and more than just our presence, it has a cursor tracking our movements. I can see you.
Yeah, our live canvas data object allows for cursors over pretty much anything.
Which is actually kind of nice. I mean, managing attention in a meeting can be pretty difficult. So that's why we made a full suite of inking tools available. Like Live Share makes every board a whiteboard.
That's right. You have all kinds of pens and other tools, all free and customizable. We also give a few different APIs that help you align the canvas to your UI across different viewports, zoom levels, and offsets, so that whether someone is on a phone or their computer, cursors and strokes are still positioned correctly.
So how about the work items themselves, Ryan? Let me circle one of the ones I was talking about here. Let's see if we can't refactor a little bit already.
Yeah, so these are fully synchronized, both the app state, the app URLs, and the text content. For various parts of our state, such as scroll position and task filters, we're using live state. And for the Kanban board, we're using Fluid's shared map to turn a static list of tasks into a real-time collection of tasks.
Cool. Well, so I've seen the UX. It's pretty nice. Tell me about the app architecture. How did you design the back end?
Well, so actually, this app is all front-end code. I'm using the Teams free fully hosted and managed Azure Fluid Relay instance, which makes this all seamless.
Nice. Well, that would help me get started pretty quickly. But if I want to persist these tasks, so I can access them when the meeting's over, how do I do that?
Well, I could upgrade to a custom Azure Fluid Relay instance. I could store the data in any other standard backend service, or I could use Microsoft Graph to load tasks from Azure DevOps. The important thing is that all of this extra collaborative goodness has no dedicated backend code, and I can mix and match these different options as I like.
Nice. Well, thank you, Ryan. Hey, I should probably go and get back to this, but I'll see you again a little bit shortly. And just to keep everything on track for the rest of the session, I'm going to turn on Do Not Disturb here. There we go. All right. So at Build last year, we introduced a public preview of Live Share. And since then, as you've seen, we've made a lot of progress. And that's why Rajesh shared yesterday that the Live Share SDK is now generally available. And that means that you can use it in your apps for production code today. Thank you. Yeah, very exciting. Now, for those of you who are just starting on your Live Share journey, let's talk a bit about what it is and how we built it. And we'll start with the secret sauce behind Live Share, which is the Fluid framework and the Azure Fluid Relay. So Fluid's a pretty strong foundation for collaboration. We validated at scale with a bunch of Microsoft apps like Whiteboard and Loop and Power Apps. Live Share harnesses all the power of Fluid and all the distributed data structures to automatically sync shared state across your clients in real time. And the Azure Fluid Relay service, which is a pretty low latency, high performance service, was designed specifically for the Fluid framework to connect all your clients together. And so as Ryan mentioned, Live Share gives you access to Azure Fluid, a Teams-hosted Azure Fluid Relay instance for free for your apps. Basically, every Live Share app is a Fluid app. Let's talk really briefly about Fluid. So first of all, you want to think about Fluid containers as little databases to kind of store all of the journal transactions that you're making as you collaborate, as you update your shared data objects. There's a couple of interesting and useful ready-made data objects as well, like a shared map for keeping track of a collection of objects, and a shared string for collaborative text editing. Now, Fluid is a massively powerful system, and it's far too much for us to go through here today. So if you want to learn more, go to aka.ms/Fluid. Check out their service. Keep in touch with what they're doing. They just went to general availability as well, and a couple things very exciting. So one of the advantages of Live Share that we talked about is the seamless integration with Microsoft Teams through the Microsoft Teams SDK. That's what lets you communicate with the Teams client and get the meeting and participant information that you saw earlier. Then we add the Live Share SDK. There are three packages that we're talking through today. One is the core package. It's what quickly and easily lets you connect to the hosted container associated with each meeting to track presence, synchronize user metadata, and send real-time events to the other clients in your session. The media package is what enables co-watching and co-listening, and the Canvas package is what enables all of the inking and laser pointers to help you manage attention. So let's talk about the first key class, which is the Live Share client. That's what we set up to enable you to connect to your session. Live Presence is the class that enables you to see who's in the session, including their username and any metadata you want to associate with them, and you'll see a bit more of that in David's demo. Live State enables you to synchronize any app state value for everyone in the meeting, whether it's a string or a number or an object or a planet. Live Timer is what keeps everyone in sync. It lets you have a countdown session. And Live Event is what lets you broadcast individual events with custom attributes to anyone in your meeting. As Bob and David are going to show you when we go through some of the coding demos, for each of these core classes, we have a very simple three-step synchronization pattern. You initialize the data object that you want, you listen for changes, And when you want to make a change from your app, there's a very simple API that sends it out to the group. There you have it. Let's talk really briefly about Canvas. So we saw one tool, so I think the laser pointer, but there's a number of different tools that we provide out of the box, and you can customize them as you need. Now, inking, as you'd expect, works really well on static pages, but we've designed it to also layer atop any kind of dynamic content. It works across devices with APIs that ensure that we have the appropriate scale and coordinates remain consistently placed across different screen sizes and layouts. So there's two key classes here. The inking manager allows you to attach a canvas element to your div, and the live canvas class synchronizes all of the strokes. Last but not least is media. So live media is what allows independent playback with uncapped resolution and frame rates. It allows users to manage their own local player settings as well, like for closed captioning. We also support something we call Smart Sound, which adjusts playback volume as people talk, so you can hear both the presenter and the playback content automatically. So the media session is the class that coordinates all the player state and controls, and the media player synchronizer, pretty apparently, synchronizes the HTML5 audio and video interfaces for you. So let me actually bring up Bob and David. We're going to walk through some of their demos. Bob? Thank you.
Thank you. So before I start the demo, I just want to ask you all a question. How many of you have ever built a web page? How about a web application that actually is like a whole app that runs? So a lot of people, right? Most of you. I have some good news. If you know how to build a web page, you already know how to build a Microsoft Teams application. Now, the difference between a Microsoft Teams application and a web page is just this. It's just this thing called a manifest. It's just a JSON file. And I'll just kind of walk you through it quickly. At the top, we have some general information about the application. And Teams will stitch this into its user interface to kind of show what the application is. And then we have some more information like the description, the icons, the branding color. And then, of course, there's the URL of your web page. In this case, we have a configuration tab that actually brings up the app, which I'll show you in just a second. And then there's this other little fun thing, which is called resource-specific consent. And this is what has to be in your manifest to allow live share to do its magic. And it's kind of boilerplate. You can just put this in, and you're enabling live share to work. So let me show you the app. This, and we got to do the valid domains. This is the app. So this was a Hack Week project that I did with my friend and colleague, Robbie Williams. And she built the UI, and I worked on the live share part. And this really came out of a need in our team meetings. There was always this awkward silence trying to decide who would speak next. So you get the idea of it, but the problem is that we're not really updating the data. So we're each seeing our own copy of the data, and it's pretty useless in that form. So when Robbie and I started working together, what we did was we sort of agreed on this interface. So build a little internal server. Again, this is just all client-side code, so don't be confused by that. But just a little service that would connect and then allow you to add a person, remove a person, go to the next person, the things that you just saw me doing on the screen. And it's just really simple, right? This is the mock one, so I just have a few fake users. You've probably heard of Alice and Bob before. And then here's the connect code. It just starts the timer, right? Not too much going on. And then when something changes, we have to update the UI, and that causes a callback up to Rabbia's React application. But we kind of divided it up like this, because you could use any kind of UI technology that you want. And then all of the different functions, like adding a person, removing a person, it's dead simple, right? We're just have a local array, we make a change to the array, and we update the UI. Very, very simple. And that's basically it. So let me show you what I did to make this work with Live Share. So I'm just going to pivot to another branch. And you'll see the first thing that I did was I brought in those 3 libraries that Hal talked about earlier. First, I brought in the Live Share client. And then the Live Share host comes from the Teams JavaScript SDK. So that's how the sort of the handoff from Teams to Live Share happens. And then we're using a shared map to store this data. So that had to come in from the Fluid framework. So then the actual, those little objects, the array is still there as it was. And now in the connect, this is where the real action happens. You'll see on line 44, we're going to create that Live Share host that Hal talked about. And then from that, we're going to get a Live Share client. And then we're going to create a Fluid container. And you'll see there's 2 objects in my container. One is the shared map, which stores the list of people. And the other is a live timer. So that's the schema. And you can set up your schema however you need in your app. And then in order to synchronize the list of people, what we're going to do is just kind of go in and first read from the shared map on line 57. That's 1 line of code to read the shared data. And then on line 60, you'll see that I've got an event handler here. So whenever the backend data changes, it's going to call this little function, which is I'm just going to go in and get the new value and update the UI. The timer is equally simple. I'm just going to go in and I have to figure out if I have a new speaker at the top of the screen. And if so, or at the top of the array, actually, because I don't know about screens down here in this little service. And I'm going to restart the timer if I have to, and then update the UI. There's this little on-tick event handler is going to update the UI as the clock is ticking. Pretty simple stuff. And now, instead of calling update UI after manipulating the array and the timer, I'm actually going to call update fluid. So this is an important principle. Normally, you would code and you would update your UI when the user does something. In this case, we're going to update fluid when the user does something. And then when fluid changes, as you saw in the event handler above, that's going to call update UI. So the update is going to show up on the screen, but I actually know that it's going all the way through the back end, and then it's updating not just my screen, but everybody's view of the application. And then update UI itself is now really simple. It's just going to fire the event handler in the UI code. So that's about it. Let's go back. Teams Toolkit, which we used to build this, made it really easy. It recompiled as soon as I flipped to the new branch. And now you can see that whether I update one participant or the other in the meeting, it's actually going to update both of them automatically. Yes? Oh, yes, sorry. There we are. So yeah, you'll see that it's actually updating on both sides. And the timers are staying in sync, which is a beautiful thing. Think about how difficult that would really be to do in real life. So this was a great little simple example. But the thing about this sample is that the two views are very similar. So it almost looks like screen sharing. And I'm really only using just a couple of the basic features, the live timer and the fluid framework. So I'd like to show a more sophisticated example. And to do that, I'd like to welcome my colleague and friend, David Rousset. David Rousset. Rousset. I'm trying to learn to say it correctly. He's come all the way from Paris. And I have to say, I think Paris is a beautiful city. And
Thank you.
I know that you are selling an apartment there.
Yep.
And so I'm kind of interested actually in seeing this because maybe we should actually go ahead and, and make the investment and, join your apartment.
Yes,
And
so...
I don't have keyboard control, so I need to flip to my second screen.
Oh. We lost the control of your keyboard.
Indeed, we did. All right. Well, we'll show part of the demo.
Yep, so the idea is, let's imagine I'd like you to visit this apartment. I can share my screen, for instance, so in the classical way. this one. And then I will be able to navigate a 3D scene like this one. And what we should see normally, if we would able
Yeah,
to
if I had control, I would flip to my other virtual screen, and you would be able to see me viewing his shared screen.
So what we can do as a backup is I'm going to show you how it's supposed to work. So you should see, when you're sharing video or 3D content, over Teams, usually it's super slow on the other side because it's going to do a video recording of that and then broadcast that on the other machine. So you're losing the frame rate. So let's imagine I would like to now share that with...
Here we go. It's working now. Thank
Okay,
you.
cool. So we can
Yeah.
be
So
back on split screen, please.
so this is this looks kind of good, but can we look inside the kitchen now?
So you see it's super choppy on Bob's machine and super smooth on mine. So let's Bob. Let's imagine we like to visit this apartment. Like, where do you like to go?
Well, I want to go in the kitchen now, or maybe go back in the... Oh, wait, no. I don't want to go that way. Go turn around and hang on. See, this is the thing. When I look at a real apartment, I can walk anywhere I want.
Okay.
I don't have the realtor kind of steering me around.
I see. So let's use the upgraded version of that. So I'm now going to use this, the same content, but now share using Live Share SDK. So I've upgraded, in a way, this 3D experience. Mm-hmm. And this time now, I can still move, of course, in the scene. But I can see that you're now inside the scene. I can see you're rotating your head, and you're moving inside the apartment. So it means that we can have both our visits. In my case, I'm maybe interested in a specific part of the apartment, in the room, while you're going to do the visit yourself, and maybe you have questions about this apartment.
Yeah, I do actually. I'm a little curious about this item in the kitchen. Let me show you. So fortunately, David has added this little control button, so I can actually bring his camera over to my view.
Oh, now you control my point of view. Okay, so if you move, it moves?
Exactly, and this is beautiful because, you kind of have your own view, but you can also share your view if you want to, and you can even start inking here. So I'm curious about this, like why is there this piece of metal here? This is kind of strange.
Okay, I don't know why you are confused about that, but why not? We can change it, and we can both, draw on top of it, which is great. And also what's really interesting is that sometimes we have difficulties, for accessibility. Hal mentioned accessibility. It's useful sometimes to draw directly on screen because, in the case of a kitchen, as a French guy, sometimes you may use some specific word I'm not super used to, and then you can draw on it. So it's even really good for accessibility too. So now you can release control. You see I'm being teleported back into the room I was. So now I can move back. Let's meet again into the living room, for instance.
All right.
And last but not least, you've seen that it's working on a Mac machine. It's working also on Bob's PC. And also what I'm going to show is also working on a mobile device. So the same experience, and it could be super interesting for you if you would be interested, for instance, to buy my apartment. You would be in the public transportation.
That's right. I could be anywhere. And people, if they write an app, then they don't have to write it twice. They can write it once, and it works on the phone as well.
Yes, and for whatever reason, it decided to stop the sharing. So the demo gods are not with us today. But trust me, it works.
Yes, it did work. So I think that this apartment looks pretty good. I think, though, do you think maybe I should ask my wife before we make this purchase?
No, yes. The price is really great. And if you're interested, maybe your wife can join.
I'll tell you what, we'll get her into a live share as well and see what she thinks. So I'm wondering now if you could show us the code.
Sure, let's jump into the code. So we can see that on my PC, that we're going to switch in full screen. It was pretty simple. To be honest, I'm not part of the Live Share SDK. I'm working on the Teams toolkit. And I was so excited when I saw that because, as I explained, you don't need any backend. and I was dreaming of building this multiplayer 3D experience myself. So the way I've been creating it, I've been using the live presence. So this is where I will have the name, this is where I had Bob's display name, my own name, or anybody names joining the meeting. And I'm going to add on top of that some metadata that will be the position of my avatars, in the scene. And then I'm going to broadcast that to all attendees, in the meeting. You saw that I was able, and Bob was able also to draw on screen. So we've been using the live canvas, of course. And I had two states. One state is when Bob was taking control. Then I wasn't able to control anymore my camera. So this is one Boolean in my case, but it could be more than that. And I had also a live state for the inking. Maybe you haven't seen that, but I got a 3D canvas, where I'm going to render the 3D scene. But when we're going to draw, I need to display another canvas, which is the inking canvas. So to avoid having conflicts, I'm going to hide or display the inking canvas when I need. So pretty simple. Then, I'm going to initialize the various objects, as we've seen in the slides. This is specific code that we already seen to join, the live share host. I've got a bunch of HTML, so I'm using no specific framework in my case. It's vanilla. And I've got those buttons. I've got the canvas. And the inking host is where I'm going to inject the live canvas host. So let's start by the live canvas. It's super simple, to be honest. So first, you need to get the HTML element. And then you're going to provide that to the live canvas object. You're going to initialize it after retrieving the inking manager. And then with this line, you're done. Basically, 3 lines of code, and you have this magical experience. So I was quite happy. To be honest, let's share a little secret. I've been asked to add this feature, not at the last moment, but I was able to code it during the meeting we had with Ryan and Hal in 1 hour, without knowing anything about that. So I think as a developer, it was super powerful because I was convinced it was super easy and super useful. Then once you have activated the inking canvas, the rest of the logic, in my case, are using the famous live state. So I've got a button. So when I'm clicking on the button, I'm going to flip the Boolean value. And what's going to happen is going to broadcast this new value to all attendees. Then I will graze our button. Only one person can take control at the same time. And same for the inking. It's just a Boolean that's going to flip the UI on everybody's machine. So really, really simple. And then, like we've seen before, you have an event. In my case, when I'm taking control, when someone is going to take control, so we're going to check that I didn't send this event myself, so I'm filtering the local value. And then what I'm going to do is, OK, now I'm remote control. What I'm going to do, I'm going to clone the value of my position, because later on I would like to be teleported back where I was. So I'm going to clone the value. I'm going to detach the control. Then the user cannot control anymore the camera. And when it's going to be released, what I'm going to do is basically restoring the position I was. If this is how I was teleported back in the room while I was looking at the kitchen with Bob when he released control. Now, regarding the 3D part, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on pure 3D code. You can have a look to the Babylon.js documentation if you're interested. But it was super simple too. I have this function basically in the 3D scene that every frame is going to see that should I update my position? Did you move in the 3D world? If it's the case, I'm then going to send my new position, so the position of my camera, the rotation, to be able to see the cube. It was rotating to see where you're looking at. And on the other side, so it means that let's imagine I'm moving in the 3D scene, and everybody on the other side are going to receive this event. This event, then I'm going once again to filter that it's not myself. And I have different cases. First, this is the first time the user is being added to my local collection. So what I need to do is to create his beautiful avatar, my beautiful cone with a cube on top of it. So I'm going to create the body. I'm going to create the label. Super easy. It's provided by the Live Share SDK. They're going to give me the display name. So I just need to put that on top of my cube. And then I'm storing the value in my local collection. If the user was already in my local 3D scenes, I just need to either update the position or rotation, so with the value provided by the Live Share SDK, or to simply, if I'm remote controlled, to take the value of the remote, of the presenter and update my local camera with that. So it was super easy to do. I'm really, really pleased to be able to do it. I didn't have to bother about the backend. It's being managed for me. So my app is pure client code. So what you've seen, the multiplayer experience, you can now build, Counter-Strike in Teams, if you like, using only client code. So if you are interested, the sample code is on my GitHub. So I will update it for the last version of the toolkit. So you will have to clone it, press F5 in VS Code with the toolkit, and it will run in your dev tenant. And back to Hal now.
Thank you, David. All right. Thank you, David. Thank you, Bob. There's nothing quite like live code demos at Build, right? So we've had a number of cool demos, but we've also had some really amazing partners building with us in our live share journey. So let's take a look at a few examples. We'll start with Autodesk. So Autodesk is a design and make company whose mission is to change how the world is designed and made by bringing digital collaboration and making it frictionless. Autodesk integrated its online viewer into Teams Live Share to develop real-time collaboration capabilities for architects that go far beyond screen sharing. Through a custom presence feature, architects and their customers are aware of where everyone's attention is, and they're able to remain immersed in their own 3D viewing experience at the same time. Autodesk also uses the Live Share canvas to draw sketches, to describe issues or brainstorm solutions, helping creators make decisions and changes effectively and quickly. We believe the world we live in demands real-time, interactive environments, and Autodesk's demo represents the new possibility of our shared vision for the future. We've also worked with Avid. Avid's amazing. They help creative people make today's most celebrated video and audio content. They realized that traditional over-the-shoulder reviews aren't always possible or even desirable. And they built the Avid app for Teams to give a full virtual experience. So Teams and Live Share lets Media Composer editors share full resolution, full frame rate video delivered over a secure SRT stream that makes time-stamped annotations anywhere from any device. And then they can save those notes later for reviews by any of the editors in the Media Composer app. Lastly, Accenture. So Accenture Industry partnered with NVIDIA to enable collaborative design reviews in Omniverse. So their development platform for building and operating custom 3D applications and pipelines and industrial metaverse applications. The Accenture and NVIDIA developers felt the flexibility of Microsoft's Live Share combined really well with the extensibility and modularity of the NVIDIA Omniverse kit, which is the Omniverse platform's core SDK. It's what makes it made it simple for a minimal number of developers to actually build their MVP in about a month. The teams used the Live Share SDK for the basic user interface, and then the majority of the development work was spent on the WebRTC client that was based on NVIDIA Omniverse's live streaming components. So you've seen all of the pieces we talked about for Live Share, but I've got another question for you. How many of you are using or want to be using React for your web apps? All right. So now you can do Live Share with React. So the Live Share integration that we're putting out to public preview today lets you use custom React hooks so that you can take advantage of all the familiar patterns that you're used to. You can take advantage of a React context provider, so your shared state's available anywhere in the app. You don't need to go through and do a bunch of prop drilling to get the information you need. And because the React integration looks and feels the same as any of the APIs you're used to working with, if you can build a React app, you can build a React app with Live Share. So this stuff is pretty fun. You should start playing around with it right now. Take a look. Ryan's going to come back up and run us through a quick demo about how he used the React app for that live stand-up app that you saw at the beginning. Ryan?
Thanks, Hal. I'm the product lead for Teams Live Share and the architect of Live Share for React. And as you can see, my name is also Ryan Bliss. Our goal is to make building live share apps in React as easy as building any other single-player application. To use live share for React, the first thing that you need to do is import this live share provider and pass it your host, just like we did for the normal JavaScript SDK. And I chose to use join on load, which is a prop that just automatically joins the Fluid container as soon as the component is mounted, which makes it just super easy. OK, so I'm going to jump now into the kind of heart of our collaboration experience for this app, which we call the live browser, which is not part of the SDK, but it is open source. So if you want to use this in your app, you can just copy and paste it from our GitHub repository into your own app. But what this component does is it keeps everybody on the same page, synchronize their scroll positions, and it makes sure that the viewport is kind of aligned for everybody. So the first thing I want to show you here is our use live presence hook, which is just one of the hooks that we make available through the SDK. Now, there's a few things here. We have all users, local user, and update presence. These are all stateful, meaning that if anybody makes a change to any of these, any of their presence objects, like what David was showing, that these will instantly update for your app. I didn't have to initialize live presence. In fact, Hal talked about the synchronization pattern. You can kind of consider this going down to just one step with the React SDK. So there's a couple things here I want to show you when you're setting this up. So you're giving it a unique key, which is just differentiating this version of use live presence from any other one that you might use in your application. And then there's this is just my custom data object, which is optional, but it just lets me assign some other kind of custom data. This is for the local user in this case. Now, what's really awesome here is that if I do stuff like update this here, it's going to broadcast that out to everybody. So it's just a React callback. If I call it, it's going to send out that change. It's going to update for everybody. Now here we're using this for a bunch of stuff, but I won't go too deep into that. But how do we keep everybody on the same page? So I'm going to take you into just another little hook in this file called use live navigate. Now here, what we're doing is when we want to make it so that if people navigate to a different URL, that they all kind of end up in that same place. Now you could do this differently. You could have take control features, or you could let people go off on their own, then come together like what David showed you. In this app, it just keeps everybody on the same page because it's a live stand-up. But whenever somebody calls, OK, well, first we've got this use live state hook, right? And I love this hook. It's super cool. And whenever we call set remote route here, that's going to usher us to a new route. And then we have this effect here that as soon as this route changes, we're going to navigate everybody to that page. And then we just kind of export that hook here. But I want to really focus on this a second first because it's so cool. For those of you who don't know React, the normal way that you use state in an application is you use this thing called use state. And normally, you just have this a default value. You have your stateful value, and you have a setter. And as soon as that changes, your app kind of reacts automatically. Now, if I want to make this multiplayer again, I can just put this back. I'll just undo it quickly. Put this back to use live state, give it a unique key that identifies it kind of separately from other places in the app, and it will automatically update. I didn't have to do anything else. I think it's just super cool. It's exactly how you normally build an app with React. OK, so I want to show you a few other parts of the SDK. And to do that, I'm going to show you the Kanban board, which is kind of our list and our collection of tasks from that demo that we showed earlier. OK, so in here, we just have some simple code. We've got this board here that we've exported from this little hook. So I'm going to click into here. So to store our collection of tasks, which have stuff like which column they're in, stuff like that, we're using another React hook that we've created called use shared map. And again, we're giving it a unique key. But this is pretty cool here because it's a little bit different than the ones I'm showing you. I'm actually creating this unique key on the fly. So if I've got multiple boards in my application, I just give it a different identifier, and that's automatically going to create this shared map for me. I didn't have to define my schema up front or anything like that. That's all based on our new Turbo architecture. Here, this tasks map, like everything else, also stateful. Whenever a new task is inserted, whenever anybody changes a task, that's automatically going to come through and update my UI for me. And then this here, I'm just passing it my default values so that as soon as the shared map is created, that it automatically puts those tasks into the shared map for me so that I don't have to do anything else. Now, we also, again, are using use live state here. I want to show you this because I think it's kind of cool how we can mix and match this stuff just like you would in a normal React app. We have use live state. We're tracking here just a user ID of who we want to filter the tasks to, or everyone. Now, we give it just a unique key here, just a string, and we give it some default value. Now, you'll notice here that I'm not actually setting this value here from my app, and that's because we had a little kind of drop-down menu in our app that we used to select which user we want to filter the tasks to. Now, that's somewhere totally different in my app. So I'm going to take you over there real quick just to show you another cool thing. Here we have there's the same use live state. We have the same key that uniquely identifies it, and then we have the same default value. But here, I'm actually exposing the setter so that I can update this app. Now, just like it's keeping in sync for everybody else in the meeting, this is also keeping in sync in my own application. So I don't have to pass around props. I don't have to set up some global state value. This will just be available to me anywhere in my app where I need to access the state value. It's super cool. It saves a ton of time. OK, so there's a lot more to this app I could show you. We have hooks for each of our things, like use live canvas and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I am just super excited to see what you build with this. I'm excited with, and it doesn't matter if you use the React SDK or this SDK. You're going to build some awesome stuff. You're going to have a ton of fun. And yeah, I'm going to pass it back to Hal, who is going to wrap things up.
All right. So live share has been pretty great. I'm excited about it. But we know that live share apps, right, they get better when Teams meetings get better. So we got a couple quick Teams announcements that we want to make about how we've improved functionality and discoverability for your apps. So the first one is static tabs. So performance is critical, right? Ryan used static tabs in his app because they take less time to load, they install faster, they start faster, they don't require any user configuration, and together they're actually cutting churn by about 40%, which is amazing. It's also really important to make sure that your users can find your apps. So now you can work with your tenant admins to make sure those apps that you're building are pinned in the meetings for your customers so they can find them right away. And it works really, really well with static apps. It's quick and easy. We are also opening up some more new real-time events. Some of the things that we're actually using in LiveShare we want to make available to you as well. These are super easy to use, and they'll be available in public preview soon. And one more thing. We're also now working with Azure Communication Services. So a lot of customers are building with ACS, particularly in financial services and more regulated spaces. We want to make sure that if you're doing that in your cross-working between Teams and ACS, that LiveShare works well for you. In this demo, for example, you're actually seeing on the left-hand side that we're actually in a ACS-enabled meeting, joined to a Teams meeting. Synchronization is happening, and just like anything else in LiveShare, you can choose what you want to synchronize. This is a banking application, so we're not going to synchronize our social security numbers as we pass them across. But everything else, you have all the control that you need to make sure that you can make that work through ACS. That's going into a private preview, so you go to the URL here and sign up. So we've talked about LiveShare. We talked about all the cool public previews. If you want to know anything that we missed, you want to come back to it, go to aka.ms Teams Live Share. I want to bring out Bob and David and Ryan. I want to thank you guys for coming up doing the demos. Because in a few days, Teams is going to be hosting a global hackathon. And my challenge to you, and I think our challenge to you, is this, right? Embrace the power of Teams Live Share. Give it a try. Check out all that Fluid can offer you. We can't wait to see what you build. Thank you for this. Thank you very much.